Good morning, family.
Good morning.
It is indeed good to be back here today and to see all your wonderful smiling faces. And those of you who are not smiling, you are not scaring me. I have been here many times. One thing about this place is when you come anointed and you come with power. I'm so grateful to come behind the wonderful anointed voice of Miss Elaine Gibbs. Give her some applause. And then further to come and to share with you this month's theme, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. I'd like for us all to begin by getting on the same page together. And therefore, I'm going to invite all of you to share this with me, to say these words. I am blessed and open to my inheritance.
I am blessed and open to my inheritance.
And that's the absolute truth. You are blessed and you are open to your divine inheritance.
Yes.
Meek, another word for poor and humble. And as we approach this theme this month, we ask ourselves, who are the meek? Who are these individuals? You know, this is a title that is so difficult for so many, especially men. It's so difficult for them to wear the label as being meek. They do not want to be understood as being meek, and that's because they misunderstand the word, because the label implies just how powerful they really are. See, meek is misunderstood. It doesn't just suggest weakness, but rather power and how to handle power. Now, this morning as we approach this idea and begin to describe this word, understand with me that our reference is really the Greek translation, because the English language does not have a word whose translation conveys both gentleness and power together. But that's what the word implies. It is all of that and more. Now, our history, as we go back and think about individuals in the history of the human race, those individuals who demonstrated meekness. The great examples that we have, of course, are Jesus, Buddha, the Mahatma Gandhi, and the Apostle John. Now, each of these were enlightened masters, and also they were labeled as being meek individuals, but yet they stood in their power, and they demonstrated from a place of power. There is a great Oriental saying that meekness compels God himself. Imagine that. Meekness compelling God himself. And long before Jesus ever even arrived on the scene and began to preach about the Beatitudes in his Sermon on the Mount, the psalmist began to describe meekness, and he tells the story of meekness, and he says this: the meek will he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his ways. His soul shall dwell at ease, and his seed shall inherit the earth. Now here's the psalmist talking about one who is labeled as meek long before Jesus comes along and begins to share all of these wonderful living principles on the Mount that we call the Beatitudes. Now, we find as we approach life that God works more effectively with someone who is meek in their character. And that's because these individuals do not allow their egos to overshadow that which they do.
Yes.
So often, so many of us are absolutely controlled by our egos. We're so worried about everything on the outer and less concerned about all things on the inner. The meek, however, do not make judgments based upon appearances and the things they hear that others will say. Rather, their judgments are based upon righteousness and spiritual direction. Another thing about the Meek, they're not quick to jump onto the bandwagon of public discord, but are more willing to stand in their glory. And therein is something that should concern all of us. How eager are you to stand in your glory? When was the last time that you consciously said to yourself that today in this moment I am standing in my glory? And then after making that declaration, positioning yourself that the illumination of spirit then just overtakes you completely, and you become an illumined being, not concerned about any and all things that are happening all around you, but your focus is on what it is that you are hearing that is coming from the center of yourself, that place within the self where the Christ dwells. You know, I would imagine that the majority of all of you that are here are members of this fellowship. If someone asks you what church do you go to, and you tell them that you belong to LA Third Church of Spiritual Living. But after belonging to a church of spiritual living, when was the last time that you could lay claim that you had a moment of spiritual illumination? You belong to this fellowship. You belong to an instance where you're constantly hearing principles of truth being taught. Constantly being reminded that there you are inseparable from life, and life being God imparted within you. But when, even in a moment of the most trying of difficulties, you've been able to stand still, face whatever it is that is confronting you, and say, today I am standing in my glory, and as I stand in my glory, I position myself that God might illuminate me in this instance. And then after feeling that illumination, go forth and deal with whatever it is that's confronting you from a place of power, assured that there cannot be any failure because you are filled with success. See, one thing about when we work and move under the anointing of something that is greater than ourselves, something that is divine in its nature, and is constantly imparting unto us all that it has to give. Something about that, as we begin to think about it, should strengthen us, should allow us to feel that we are empowered. And as a result of this empowerment, we challenge ourselves to be greater than that which we are. See, most folk are quick to go to a place of ego rather than to go to a place of strength. And so often in rushing to that place of ego, their automatic advice to someone else who is coming to them for some assistance is, I wouldn't take that. I wouldn't take that. I would tell them where to take it and what to do with it once they got it. I would grab the first thing that I saw and tell you what I would do with that. Does that sound like someone who is standing in their glory? Does that sound like someone who feels that they are empowered by something that is within? Does it sound like someone who understands that the seed of greatness has been implanted into each of us, and each and every moment that we turn to that place, something happens to us. We become the illumined beings that God intended for us to be. You see, the egotist, once again, is a servant to a false God. They are the slave to their own vanity. On the surface, they all seem to thrive. But beneath the surface, there is nothing of longevity to build upon it. And we have to ask ourselves, which are we? Am I afraid of being labeled as an individual who is meek? Someone who has great examples of greatness to follow? Or do I want to rely upon my ego? The Apostle Paul, one day in his writing to the church in Corinth, speaks to us in this manner. And he says, "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but are mighty through God, to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ." See, our weapons are spiritual, unseen, but heard within ourselves. We don't need to grab something on the outside. We don't need an instrument that was made by hands. The greatest weapon that we can employ against anything that might come against us is spiritual. But we need to understand, how do we access that? You know, it does do no good to come to church every Sunday morning and then leave out unempowered. You come and you've had a wonderful social experience, but what about the spiritual experience? You came and you greeted everyone that you've not seen since last Sunday, and you'll see them again the following Sunday. But have you grown? Because in the middle, during the interim of that time, you're going to have things that come against you and individuals that come to you for assistance. And your source of strength, your source of advice, that which you can give unto them, is lying within you. And we must learn how to turn within and pull it out, that we can share it not only with ourselves, but with everyone else. See, the meek understand this. And while we do not walk around with a banner on our chest saying that we are meek, we do walk as directed by Spirit. The question that you answer only to yourself: do you walk directed by Spirit? Tomorrow morning, you're going to be greeted with a whole multitude of things. There may be a whole multitude of challenges. Do you run with your hands up and fret? Or do you greet it all from a place of confidence, a place of courage, a place of knowing that there's been something embedded within you that empowers you to go up against whatever it might be and be a success? See, all of us at some point have to reach a decision about ourselves, about our beliefs, and what it is that we want to reflect on ourselves. It's my desire above it all, really, to say I stand in my glory, to constantly position myself as a receptive channel of Spirit, to always know that wherever I am and wherever I might be, I know without doubt that I am that place where God has gone forth and positioned itself through me in the world. And therefore, I am always going to be a receptive channel of its divine inspiration. I'm always going to be a host of its inspiration. I'm always going to be a voice that Spirit might use to share the good news. What about you? Dr. Ernest Holmes speaks on this idea. In his book, The Bible in the Light of Religious Science, he writes this about the meek. He says, "Kingdoms have risen only to crumble in dust and become numbered with past events. Passion and lust for power have strewn the earth with destruction. It would seem as though the meek had lost out in the titanic struggle for temporal supremacy. In the midst of this drama of human existence, Jesus declared that the meek shall inherit the earth." He was right. They have done so and will continue to do so. Imagine that. Regardless of what we see that's going on, the meek shall continue to inherit the earth. I'd like for us just to take a moment, if you will. Relax in your seats. Close your eyes. Just listen to these words that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to speak this idea first. Speak it into the silence while you're sitting there, relaxed with your eyes closed, just opening yourself up to be a channel of divine expression, to feel safe, to know that God is everywhere present and is right here, right now, touching each of us with all of its magnificence. Listen to these words. Today in this moment, I stand in my glory. I am at a place, I am in a space where I am totally receptive to the Spirit. Divine inspiration fills me so completely. In this moment, I am renewed and revived as the totality of my being is filled with divine illumination. In this wonderful glow of the Spirit, and for this blessing, I am truly grateful. So process that. Now let's just take a deep breath and open your eyes. Exhale. And let's speak power into our own lives. You affirming this after me. Today, in this moment, I stand in my glory. I am at a space where I am totally receptive to the Spirit. Divine inspiration fills me so completely. In this moment, I am renewed. And revived. As the totality of my being. Is filled with divine illumination. In this wonderful glow of the Spirit. I am inspired. Empowered. And restored. For this blessing. I am truly grateful. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And so it is. Now, allow yourself just for a moment to feel what you have just spoken into manifestation. Feel what you just proclaimed about yourself. That we were talking about in this instance right now, in this moment, where you are, what you are, and what's happening to you as it is happening through you. And then expressing gratitude for all of that. And after we did that, then we let it go. And that's all we have to do with it. Because once we let it go, we allow its impact to continue to impact us. There's a unity writer by the name of Emmett Fox. And in his book, The Sermon on the Mount, Dr. Fox talks about our inheritance as being Meek. And I'd like to share with you some of his ideas. He says that the word earth in the Bible does not merely mean this terrestrial globe. It really means manifestation. In other words, your earth means the whole of your outer experience. And to inherit the earth means to have dominion over your outer experience. That is to say, to have power, to bring conditions of life into harmony and true success. Now, as one that is me, Jesus knew what he was talking about when he made the statement in principle about the meek inheriting the earth. He understood that those individuals who are meek will constantly and consistently listen to that inner voice that is speaking within them. And in listening to it, they allow themselves to be guided by it. And in that guidance, they become powerful over all of their affairs. You know, so often we allow our affairs to control us rather than we controlling our affairs. And so often we'll say, well, I don't know how. That if I knew what I needed to do in those instances, I will do it. Well, you know, we're in an age now where every time we need to find out something, we will Google it. And we will find the answer right away. We just plug in a buzzword and all of a sudden the definition of whatever it is that you need pops up. Imagine that happening with you in your spiritual walk. Yes. That you say within yourself, whatever it is that I need, while I may not know at this moment what it is, I know that I can turn to something that is within me that is all-knowing. Yes. I can turn to something that's at the center of myself that represents all the wisdom that there is. Yes. And as I listen so attentively to it, it speaks to me in a manner in which I can understand and comprehend. And I will move according to its direction. When was the last time you said that to yourself? See, we're quick to say we belong to a church of spiritual living, but slow to listen to the Spirit. Now, there's some hypocrisy in that we're going to have to deal with at some point. And that is, we need to open up and be more receptive. Because the more we do that, we'll take control of all these instances that we are calling our challenges. Make them go away. So the question that I pose to you this morning is this. Have you robbed yourself of your ability to exercise dominion over your experiences? Have you robbed yourself? Have you denied yourself the blessing that is inherently yours? Have you denied yourself the goodness that is right where you are? You know, so oftentimes when we're seeking something or needing something, we have to get up, get dressed, get in our car, and drive out to wherever it is that we need to go and receive that advice. But right now, here in this moment, I'm telling you, all you got to do is to turn within. When's the last time you turned within, allowed that illumination that is rightfully yours to overshadow you, to feel the totality of your being, so that you can have a blessing? Now, when we fail to do that, you know what happens? We get out of control. Clearly, we are out of control. And when we become out of control, we're quick to say that someone else is doing something to us. Because when we're out of control, we're giving over control. We're giving it to something and someone else rather than placing it where it belongs, and is right within ourselves. So Jesus comes along on the scene. And he begins with all of these wonderful beatitudes. And he's instructing the multitude in principle, telling us everything we need is right where we are in sin. But to you, that group of you that are meek, listen, you're so special that you're going to inherit the earth. Not the appearance of this round terrestrial globe, but everything that is happening on the outside of you, you're going to be able to take control over that, because you are listening quietly, simply, and diligently to the voice that's speaking in the silence of yourself. How else could someone come along and make such a bold proclamation that if I be lifted up, if I be lifted up from the earth, I'll draw all men unto me? How could he make that statement unless he knew for certain that the I am that is within each of us is calling out to us and it is called out to us. It is instructing us, and in that instruction to us, it is blessing us. See, it was a meek man that a woman who felt that she had a condition that all she had to do was to reach out and touch his garment and she would be delivered. It was a meek man that a centurion went to and said, just speak a word. Because I know that you are in tune with a higher power. So I need for you to speak a word. If you speak that word, my servant will in fact be healed. And in this moment, in this fellowship, with all of us that are here, if we would just allow our meekness to shine as divine illumined beings that we are. Imagine all the mountains and the circumstances that are causing adverse conditions be cast away, cast aside. The things that we would be able to do. To do that, let's go to a place. And in this place, let us know that we are the seed of God. And we shall inherit the earth. Say this with me, if you will. I am the seed of God.
I am the seed of God.
The earth is my inheritance.
The earth is my inheritance.
Today I go forth.
Today I go forth.
To claim my rightful inheritance.
To claim my rightful inheritance.
Yes, we are. We are indeed the seed of God. We are that divine seed. And this beatitude teaches us just that. It teaches us that dominion and power is rightfully ours. But to have it and not use it does no one any good. You can be filled and filled and filled and filled with dominion and power. But if you don't do anything with it, how does it prosper you? How does it alter the things that concern you? How does it move you from where you are to the place where you want to go? See, not to use it just gives you something to lament on about how things are so bad in your circumstance. But today, go out of here knowing this. Anything that is bad in your circumstance and remains that way is because you allow it.
That's right.
Not because it's God ordained. It's because you allow it. And you continue to allow it. And the moment you get tired of it, you will say to it, I am standing in my glory. I am that place where God goes forth into my world as me. And today I allow the illumination that can only come from divine mind to illuminate my being so completely. Imagine going out of here today, and that is the affirmation that precedes you to wherever it is that you may end up at. You are blessed. You are meek. And God knows that the earth is your inheritance. Peace and blessings.